Folks, welcome to Henderson, Nevada. Last station on the line here for Jake Feinberg before I head back to Tucson and get a chance to connect with a good friend of the program and a brilliant singer-songwriter, a guy who's seen it all. Sonny Charles, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you, Jake.
You know, I want to set the record straight. A lot of people, not me, and not you, but some people would call Sammy Davis Jr. an Uncle Tom. But you know that he was very involved in the civil rights movement. Oh, yeah. And I wanted you to talk specifically about what you witnessed, because a lot of people would say Sammy was an Uncle Tom. He wasn't.
Well, I think the main reason Sammy got that tag was he hugged Ronald Reagan when Ronald Reagan was running for president. But Reagan was a friend of his. And he did that because Sammy hugged everybody. So he did that as a thing. I don't even think he voted for Reagan. But
back in the day, though, when you knew, was he being called that back then? An Uncle Tom?
No.
Yeah, no.
I didn't know anybody that would do that. But now, that was a time when the whole racial images were confused. You know what I mean? Say guys like Sammy and us, the Checkmates, and everybody, we worked in basically white venues. And so our friends were basically white people. That's who we associated with.
Right.
And so, but Sammy was very active. He was a very active in all the social programs, all of the things. He was a lifetime member of the NAACP. I was playing golf with Sammy the day that the Freedom Riders got killed. And he dropped everything. We were like on the 11th hole or something like that. He dropped everything, took off. He had to go. He was really upset by that whole thing. Sammy was a door opener. He opened the doors for us, for a lot of us who came along after him.
Did he precede Nat King Cole too?
I think they were sort of contemporaries for a while. But Sammy started at 4 years old in vaudeville. And so, he pretty much went through the whole gamut of things. And so I don't really know when Nat King Cole started, because from my consciousness there was always a Nat King Cole.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was doing his thing for a minute, yeah.
Yeah.
But this is fascinating. I mean, I want you to talk, the Checkmates, talking to a legend here in Sonny Charles. Did you try to go on the Chitlin circuit and were rejected? Or once you got into the club scene in Vegas, were you not, I don't know what the right word is, it was not, that was where you were going to be. Can you take us through, because there was the Chitlin circuit, which I've been obsessed with, and people thrived on that circuit.
Yeah.
And it was a black music circuit, and and yet here you guys are playing soul music, beautiful soul music, and you're playing the club scene. And I want you to talk to younger cats out there about how it all went down.
The way it started was we got out of the service. We managed to keep our high school band together in the service because they had a program called the Buddy Plan. So we all signed up on the same day. We all stayed together throughout basic training and all that, and we all ended up in Fort Lewis, Washington, up there by Tacoma and Seattle.
Wow.
We continued to work while we were in the service. We got assigned to the entertainment division, and we worked and did stuff, and ended up doing meeting Lyndon Johnson when he came through there and doing the Saints Go Marching In for them. But we were basically just gigging, man, just doing. We always looked at it to say it's just notes. It doesn't matter what venue, what genre you're doing.
It's just
notes.
A
song is a song, so so you just do it. But anyway, we got out of the service, and we started doing clubs, and we were doing basically white clubs, because that was it was like 62. 1962, 63.
Wow.
And we were an integrated band. That's why we did so many white clubs.
So out of all there were how many white cats in the band?
Two. It was 5 of us.
5.
guitar bass was white guys. Harvey Trees
Well,
on
actually,
guitar.
why don't you just can you just point them out on the back of the album to the audience here?
Okay. Harvey Trees, Bill Van Buskirk. And that's Marvin Smith, we call him Sweet Louie. Bobby Stevens, who was the leader of the band, and yours truly right here.
Wow. So that's basically the ability to get into the white club the white club scene was because it was an integrated band.
We were an integrated band. And I can't tell you how many times that we would show up and the people would be shocked that there were black guys in it. Because agents didn't really, they don't give you any information you don't need. So they said, hire this band. And when we get there, we played a job in Sheboygan, Michigan. And when we got there was no place we could stay. Now this was like 1960. Had to be summer of 63. 1963, and we couldn't stay there. So what we did, the white guys went and got the room. We would sneak in there and sleep and get up and leave before the maids got there. And we'd spend all day out. And then we'd show up just like we were just visiting.
Wow. and you were able to pull that off.
We did 2 weeks.
Oh, that's insane, man.
We did 2 weeks. And it was a real good gig. The gig went over well.
How did you personally feel at that time, though? You're making bread, you're singing for your supper, you're playing your music, and you can't even stay in the town.
But
or you can't. You have to hide.
The mindset that we had in those days was, this is the way it is. This is the way it is, you know. And like for black guys, this is the way it was. You know, we were in playing for Mr. Charlie.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So this is the way it is. I mean, during the day they would take us water skiing, and there would be guys who were always friendly people. It was the policies that made club owners and business owners afraid to. I remember being in Salt Lake City. My son was, I think, 2-3 years old, and I took him to the pool where we were staying, and the management called me and go, "Please, you got to get your kid out of the pool. The people are complaining." I said, "He's a kid. He's a baby." "Yeah, I know. You know, we don't agree with it, but you got to get him out of the pool."
That's Dorothy Dandridge. Eddie Palmieri told me the story. She jumped in a pool in Vegas and to swim, and then they drained the pool after she got out.
I know. They almost did that with my 3-year-old son.
And you looked at that as that's the only thing you knew.
I just said, "Well, okay, that's the way it is." And I said, "Ain't this a bitch, you know?"
This is a bit, yeah. Right. You're like, in order for me to be in a band, go to Sheboygan, Michigan, and make good bread, this is just the way it is.
The bread wasn't that good.
But there was bread. There was some bread.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't. You weren't paying to play like it is today.
We were just traveling. We spent our first, I think, when we got out of the service, I think we spent our first probably year and a half on the road. I remember having Fort Wayne, Indiana address on my Utah driver's license. I mean,
I can't swear to that. Boy, I forgot you were from Fort Wayne. Yeah. This is. I mean, can you talk about the idea of how those songs, take any one of them that became hits, how much of those did the song grow into a life of its own because you were able to play it live so many nights in a row, as opposed to today where you got cats making albums and they just sit on a shelf because there's really no touring circuit? How much of the germ of those songs grew out of relentless touring?
Well, you know what, the biggest song, Black Pearl, written by Tony Wine and Sheldon Irving.
Can you sing a little bit of that for the audience, for the younger kids?
Black Pearl, precious little girl, let me put you up where you belong. Oh, oh, Black Pearl, precious little girl, you've been in the background much too long. Yeah, it was a cool song. It was right during the time where we were making the statement. It wasn't a protest song, but in a lot of circuits, it was considered a protest song.
Explain why it got...
You've been working so hard your whole life through, tending other people's houses, raising up their children too.
Dig.
You know what I mean?
No, that's all there.
Yeah. So, you know...
But the song was already a hit once you took it, I guess. I'm just saying, did the songs grow into a new life of their own on the bandstand?
Yeah, you know what? It was we did a short tour for that because we'd signed with Herb Alpert's company then. So we did a tour with Herb Alpert. The song got up to number 6. Black Pearl got up to number 6 on the Billboard charts. And so we did a tour with Herb. And the odd thing about it is we toured all summer. We got to Brigham Young University. And they wouldn't let us go on stage because we were a mixed band. So it made national news. It made national news. It was on all of the news.
Why were you based out of Salt Lake? You're talking about Utah, and you already...
No, the tour had taken...
Right, no, but I mean, you had the pool incident with your son, and now BYU, the Mormons, not copacetic with an interracial group.
No, if we'd have been an all-black group, it'd been fine.
Really?
But because it was an interracial group, we were sending a message they didn't want to send.
That rings true. Mike Finnegan, the great Oregon keyboard player, was in a band called the Surfs, and they had the same issue. It was integrated.
Yeah.
And that actually was harder, much harder.
But you know what? But we played a place called the Black Hawk Club. It was a dance club, and we played there, 63, something like that. That was well before Black Pearl, and we were a hit band there in Salt Lake. We played there several times, but as an interracial band. But the thing about it is the execs at Brigham Young who said, we don't want this message, we don't want this image of us okaying
harmony, some kind of it. Yeah, it was putting a positive stamp on it.
Because at that point it was basically a white college, but they would bring African guys over. They would do exchange students with Africans, but there wasn't many blacks from the States.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
They would take them from they do exchanges with the motherland, but not not blacks from the States.
Yeah.
Can you talk about? I mean, it was mind blowing listening back to our radio interview. We talked about that group, the cabaret group from France, that basically said we're not going to play our show at the Stardust Club unless Nat King Cole gets King's.
Well, it was the Bluebell Girls, Lido de Paris. No, not Lido de Paris.
The Lido family or something,
Was it the Lido? I'm trying to remember. Man, this goes back so far with me. I think it was, I think it was Lido that played the Stardust. Nat King Cole went to Paris. I heard this story from people that I believe it's true because I heard it from the girls and from some other people.
Dig, yeah.
And Nat went there. They gave Nat they came to Nat's show when he was in Paris. He treated them.
He went to their show and then he invited them to his show, and they came to his show.
Yeah, and so when he came to Vegas, they invited him to the Stardust. And the people at the Stardust said, well, yeah, Nat King Cole, great to see you. You can stand here in the wings.
Or the lighting booth.
Or the lighting booth.
You got two choices.
Yeah. And the people, the Lido people found out and went, no show. If he's not sitting Kings Row Center, this is Nat King Cole. If he's not sitting Kings Row Center, no show. And they waited for a while, and then they finally set him down there. And the audience went nuts. They loved Nat King Cole. Everybody was over trying to get pictures and everything with him, and the bosses are going, whew, So at that point, that was the first time that it was really an integrated situation in the showrooms here in Vegas.
Now, to be clear, there was still just a section for black people. It wasn't
in the other. Yeah, it was still that way. There was a section that black folks could sit, and but they all had to sit together.
Right, and the owner thought there was going to be a riot, but in fact, everybody wanted his autograph.
Yeah, everybody loved it.
I want to go back to something we never squared the circle on this. You guys started to go on tours, Sheboygan, Michigan. You were touring all the time, but did you actually try to go on the Chitlin circuit and said you're not wanted here?
No, you know what? We were never even considered for that. The agents we had didn't book those things.
Interesting.
Our agents were booking white clubs, white places. We played when Kennedy the day Kennedy got assassinated.
John F. Kennedy.
Yeah, John F. Kennedy. That's right. It was two of them. Yeah, we were in Missoula, Montana, playing us.
I mean, that is so tripped out to some club there, some supper club.
Yeah, no, it was a hotel that had a musical venue there, and we were playing, and it was the craziest thing. These guys would throw their beer bottles up in the air, and if it crashed, if it hit somebody, the fight was on. And we would just keep playing together, keep playing. And these guys would be slugging it out, and then if somebody would break it up, the bouncer would break it up, and it was crazy. But the day Kennedy got
Americana, right there. That's so Americana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were doing a radio interview, and they interrupted the interview and said, John F. Kennedy had just been killed, just been shot. He wasn't dead at that point, just been shot. So that canceled the interview, and we were all in shock, of course. So we came back, and we worked that night. You know, we worked that night. Everybody sort of showed up, but it was sort of solemn, you know. It wasn't the same. And that was pretty much our last weekend there. So we left there. Never went back to Missoula since then. But
It's interesting. I mean, did you cross paths with cats like John Lee Hooker and the Chitlin Circuit cats? Would they look at you different? Would they say, hey, I mean, these guys are making bread. They're playing White Club. I mean, what was it like crossing paths with the cats that were all those
the conversations would be, how did you guys get Vegas? How did you guys get Vegas? How come we can't get Vegas? And show you good.
So it was playful. There was no acrimony there.
No at all, because you know.
Who did you used to cross paths with? The guys that were Chitlin Circuit that you at least were friends with, that you knew.
We really didn't see many of them because we were on another part of town.
Unbelievable.
We would be playing in another part of town. We didn't play the black areas. I mean, you know, we were uptown. You know what I mean?
But when you got to number 6, your songs were being played on.
Yeah, that was a weird thing. Black Pearl was big, but we didn't play any black clubs. We were in Detroit, and the guy from A&M,
Jerry Moss.
Yeah, no, but I think his name was Jimmy B. He was a record promoter, and he was taking me around to all the radio stations. Well, the black radio stations, because they were playing Black Pearl then. And so we did all that stuff, and on the way back to the hotel, because we were playing, I think, the Moon Club in Detroit, which was basically a...
Well, it definitely wasn't the 20 grand. It wasn't the 20 grand where George Clinton was playing.
No, it wasn't down there. But going through the ghetto, we passed by this club, and it said, appearing tonight, little Sonny Charles doing Black Pearl. And I went... What? Probably some 12-year-old kid. And I said, well, I hope he does well.
Yeah, right. That's right. But you were not, and you never had. But how did you give back to the community in your own? I mean, this is very important because you had to make a living. But like with Sammy, I mean, how did you give back?
Well, we set up a scholarship in our hometown for people from our area where we grew up. We had a scholarship fund for them, and we did all sorts of activities with civil rights activities. I can't say I ever marched because I never marched, but we would do fundraisers. We would do all that sort of stuff. And
did Dr. King ever come see you guys play?
No, I saw Martin Luther King when I was 14 years old. In Dallas, I was in the junior Baptist situation, and I went there with our church, and I saw him, and Jesse Jackson was just a young kid at that point, and John L. Lewis and all those guys were there as part of the entourage. Martin Luther King spoke. I was too young to really get the full impact of it, but I remember driving by, and the guy who was riding us around said, "There's a club over there that belongs to this guy named Jack Ruby." And he pointed out Jack Ruby's club, and that's why all that stuff just came. I said, dang, you know. But this was 14 years old.
Talking to Sonny Charles here on the Jake Feinberg Show, and when after Nat Cole sort of broke ground with the clubs in Vegas, talk about the Checkmates. I mean, as far as what you guys did, as far as breaking barriers there as well.
What we did was we were playing the Pussycat Go-Go, selling out the place.
The Pussycat Go-Go.
Yeah, selling out the place. It was a dance club that had a main stage, and then over the bar was another stage with the two go-go girls in cages. They weren't in cages, but they were.
No, that was a big thing.
Yeah. They had the frilly outfits on, and they would stand up there and dance while the bands played. And on one stage would be the secondary band. We were the headliner band on the main stage. So, we were playing there, and the big thing that happened was that it was segregated to the point that where black folks sit in the one section on the side. They never get to see a front view. They had to sit on the side. And I remember one day it was like there was some seats. It was sort of cold, and there were seats open in the white area, and the black area was full, and there were black folks standing in line. It was cold out, so we
out the door.
Yeah, we said this is ridiculous. These people get up and dance together. They would dance together because they worked together in the hotels. They knew each other. They would probably sit together in the hotels and have lunch or whatever they did in the employee rooms, and so but they couldn't sit together in the nightclub. So they'd get up and dance together. So we said, this is ridiculous. We're not going on. So we wouldn't go on. We waited about 30 minutes or so, and finally the guy, his name was Garwood Van. Garwood Van was a trombone player with Stan Kenton, I think.
Wow.
And so
Garwood Van owned that club.
Yeah. So Garwood Van said, okay, we'll see. If there's any trouble, not going to do it again. So they did it. Nobody cared. Everybody went, hey, Joe.
Just having a ball.
Yeah, hey, they knew these people. Everybody knew each other. It was only 125,000 people in Vegas at that point.
Right.
It was pretty. Everybody knew each other. So so the next day, there was a thing in the, it's a Review Journal, and then there was another, the Las Vegas Sun. I believe it was the Las Vegas Sun newspaper had a column that said, Checkmates integrate strip. And to this day, haven't been able to find that column at all.
Maybe on microfilm or something like that.
We had people look. We've had writers.
But you remember, it's seared into your memory. You seeing that headline.
Yeah, and you know what? We didn't think enough of it to clip it out.
Well, you were right in the moment. I mean, it was just like
we didn't save it, because.
I mean, Sonny, I just talked to the people out there. I mean, tomorrow they're going to have another, white supremacist rally in Washington, D.C. We're a year out from Charlottesville. And here you have even the club owner, let's just take Nat Cole with these very overt, obvious things that are just ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
There's plenty of seating in the white. I mean, this is your gig, but take the Nat Cole with the Stardust and then the Pussycat Go-Go. What is it that prevents certain people from bringing all of us together as one human? I mean, it sounds naive maybe, but you've seen it for so long.
The feeling I got back in those days was that the owners and the bosses were thinking that if they open it up to blacks, I mean, they didn't have any trouble with Latins or Asians or any other ethnic group.
They didn't.
It's just blacks.
Really?
If we open it up to blacks, and even today, let's go to today. If a black act is playing here in town, and now the big showrooms are different now because it's all promoters and stuff bringing
absolutely.
The residency stuff is just like, I don't understand why they call it that, but that's a whole different scene. But back when we were playing, if your audience got to be more than, if it was 40% black, then you better whiten it up a little bit, because if you're getting too many blacks in your show, I mean, and this was the reality, and everybody knew this. No,
just explain to the people watching across the world why blackness would be a threat. Who cares? It's still money. They're paying dough to go see the
But they didn't. I think they were afraid of the image.
image. So there's an image thing, a skin color.
That's still something now.
It is still big.
It's still there now, and we all joke about it. Said, hey man, we were playing over there, man, and we was packing the place. And the next thing we know, and they go, well, you know what? The bosses go, we're going to go in a different direction. And the next gig, country western band in there, changed the whole. It's like washing the whole. We're going to whitewash it.
Doesn't matter about the bottom line. We just need, it's an image thing because
Yeah.
And where are we at today with this idea of image? Because you have now, obviously we have the president using the bully pulpit to fan the flames of this stuff. But where are we at today? Explain. In our first interview, you talked about tensions, cultural bias being worse today than it was in the 70s and 80s. And I want you to explain why.
I think when you saw the whole deal that happened with Barack Obama, who was basically had really good ideas, and a lot of them were Republican ideas.
Absolutely.
Coming in. But the racial thing is the reason. If he had been Trump, those things would have passed. All of this stuff would have passed. This whole deal with the affordable health care is because they put Obamacare because they wanted to taint it, so to make sure that the black guy's idea didn't work.
It was a moderate Republican plan.
Yeah. So the point I'm trying to say is that now it's like it's so behind the scenes. It is so
covert. It's covert.
Yeah, covert. So you don't know who really to watch out for. You know what I mean? The guy who shakes your hand and say, "Oh man, this is good, man. Let's go to dinner. Let's go do this," is the same guy that will prevent you from doing something. You know what I mean? And I'll say that my career has sort of skated past all that. I never really had any real issues with race except for when we first started. But
you were denied homes. You were accosted by police. You've had a lot of issues, though. Let's not pretend that it didn't exist.
You know what? I've always been. I remember when we were Checkmates were like at their apex. The PR person came to us and said, "You guys need to smoke some dope, get in a fight, do something that we can. We don't have anything to.
You guys are too clean."
Yeah, it's like we got 5 doors days here. How do we do anything with you? You know, but my whole thing is I don't want any hassles with the police. I mean, I don't see any good coming out of that. So I just live basically a clean life. You know, I just never was a guy that got hung up in the drug scene.
Right.
I didn't do any.
You weren't having kids out of wedlock and not paying child support.
No, I just wanted to make good music. That's my whole thing. I wanted to make good music. I wasn't really starstruck. I didn't care about being stars. I've seen too many unhappy stars. It made it sort of unappealing to me. I'm saying all of them are, but I'm just saying I've seen situations that made it not. You know, the bigger the headache, the bigger the problem. You know what I mean? The bigger,
Can you talk about? I mean, I've often riffed on that. I'm the farthest thing from a superstar, but you talk to enough cats and you realize that there are a lot of dudes and women out there. They have all the gold records in the world. They have all the money in the world, and they're miserable.
They're miserable.
And I have a feeling, and I'd like you to just riff on this: the idea that as they get older and the phone stops ringing as much, their ego, I mean, they've always believed that they were the ones that were responsible for inspiring all this, when in fact they were merely a conduit from the stuff coming through them from the heavens. And is there validity in that? Where does the misery come from, Sonny?
I think a lot of it is you're always trying to be relevant, and you're trying to be the most relevant person. I mean, I've seen this with other people. I saw it with Sammy, not so much with Cosby, because when I stopped seeing Cosby, he was already the number one guy.
Right. Who else besides Sammy, though?
But just being around, and not saying that I had any real close contact with them, but just looking at it from from a distance
And being in the biz.
and knowing in the biz that a guy wants to be Justin Bieber has got this thing, and how come I don't have this? Well, you're probably 15 years or older than he is, and you've
Not relevant. Not relevant.
I always said this: everything has a shelf life. You know what I
I
mean?
dig that, man. I got about 10 years left on the Jake Feinberg. About a decade,
but
yeah.
everything, just like I look at my career. Now I'm 78 next month, and so hey, I've had my turn. I don't regret anything, and I'm not looking forward to. I'm not out there trying to make it. You know what I'm saying? And so,
So people go beyond the expiration date, is what you're saying, and it spoils.
Yes, and the frustration comes from that, and also there's an obsession that happens when you reach it. I don't know if it's like some sort of thing that happens. I mean, when you look at Michael Jackson couldn't sleep, and Prince couldn't sleep, and all these people who can't sleep, and I'm saying,
Jimi Hendrix couldn't sleep, probably.
Yeah. You kick. So what is it? I don't know if who was it that wrote that passage that says, "When you sell your soul to the devil, and the devil exacts his price is pretty." It's something like that. I know I'm paraphrasing it wrong, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. And I'm not saying that these guys sold their souls or these people.
No, I'm just trying to figure out the why. The point is also it's a lot of spiritual materialism too. There's really no spirit. It's all wrapped up in sort of, why don't I have that? Why am I not relevant? Why am I not this? But this is the question though. The question is, can you maybe the shelf life expires, but can you recycle that? I mean, you are somebody that walked away in the disco years and then came back like a house of fire.
Well, I don't know, but do I really have the desire anymore for it? You know what I mean? Yeah, you always want the bread, and sure, I make a few more bucks. But do I want to go through all that? I remember the only time in my life I ever considered suicide. Checkmates were at the very peak of our career. I'm on the 21st floor at some hotel in New York. And I'm sitting there saying, I felt like somebody's racehorse. I mean, hey man, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this, to wake up, and this is the schedule. So I'm saying, wait a minute, when do I get to say, I want to do what I want to do? But it's too many people involved. So now I'm just a person I'm the object that they're selling.
Wow.
And I looked at it to say, this is not the life I want. I don't want this.
What year was this?
60. Oh, it was during the Black Pearl times. It had to be 69. And it was my last year.
And you were spinning out of control. You were really at the point where you're like, I have no say of my own life.
I have no say. I'm just caught up in this big whirlwind of shows. We're doing radio shows all day, television shows, and different things, and you just pull through it, and everybody's telling you how great you are, and I'm feeling like
it's so legit because it's like you get to a certain level when you're like, I'm miserable and I'm sick and tired of people telling me how good I am.
Yeah, and then we were doing a thing. I think it was the Jerry Lewis Telethon in New York, and we were at the hotel, and Janis Joplin was in the lobby, just
out of her mind,
and just really putting on this big scene. And I looked at it to go, hey, this is not what I want. Is this?
Yeah.
This is not what I wanted. I looked at it to say, after that, I just backed off. I'm saying, I just want to make music, man. I just want to make a nice living, make the music. I'm very, very content with where my life is now. I'm cool.
Dude, you're beyond cool, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, no, I wanted you to talk about how you actually connected with Steve Miller.
I did I don't know if you're familiar with the Bohemian Club.
Where was it?
It's up in not in San Francisco, but it's up in that wine country area, like up there.
Like Mill Valley or Napa. Sonoma, yeah.
And up in
the
that
Bohemian
area.
Club.
Yeah, it's up on the Russian River up there.
Oh, yeah.
It's a all-male club. And there's been some stories about it that's really untrue. but it's an all male club, probably 2,500 people, and it's a very, very cool thing. But it's just all bands.
Still around?
Oh yeah, it's still going very well. But I was doing a thing up there, and I met Steve.
What year?
2003.
So that was the first time you connected. It was never.
Yeah.
But then he was like, I bet he was like, dude, I lived on you.
Well, no. What happened was we did some shows together, and I was doing just blues. Because, you get there, you sing something everybody can play. So he's a big blues guy. He loves blues.
What did he get off on? Can you sing a tune?
Sweet little angel, I love the way you spread your wings. Something like that. Got a sweet little angel.
Perfect,
I love the way you spread her wings. Puts the loving arms all around me. And I feel so good about everything. And so we would do that stuff, Stormy Monday Blues and that sort of thing. So he goes, man, I want to do some blues with you. But I had a partner at that time, Sweet Louie was my partner.
Sweet Louie?
Yeah, Sweet Louie is this guy, Marvin Smith. We were the only two guys left. We were the only two guys left in the Checkmates. So we were still doing the Checkmate act. And Sweet Louie passed away in 2007. So about 3 months later, Steve calls me up and go, man, I would like for you to come do some recording with me. So I went and we did, we went up and we were at Skywalker Ranch, up there in I don't know what part of California it was, but...
That's where he lives?
No, Steve lived up in Ketchum, Idaho then.
Right. Why do Skywalkers... It was George Lucas's...
It's not Steve Berg. Who was the other guy? Not Spielberg. Who was the other guy?
It was George Lucas.
George Lucas.
Yeah, so you were at Skywalker Ranch.
Skywalker Ranch.
Yeah.
That's his
compound. Yeah, no, I did.
Compound, man, and had a great. That's where they do the big movie scores.
John Williams,
yeah, and all that stuff.
Yeah, right.
So right in that big place is what we did. We recorded 50-something songs. We stayed up there for a couple of weeks. Just every day, we spent all day laying down tracks and doing songs. So the thing was, I sang the songs so Steve could be playing, and he didn't have to sing and play at the same time, and he didn't have to. So I would sing the songs so the band could get the real groove. They'd have a real good vocal happening. So he goes, after that, he goes, man, how about joining the band? So I said, yeah, okay, I'll take it. So the next day he goes, come on, man, why don't you join the band? I said, okay, I'll think about it. So finally he goes, look.
Wait. So the first time you said, I don't know, and then the second time you said, I don't know.
I never worked for anybody before.
But you said you were going to commit suicide because people were telling you what to do much back in the day.
But see, that was my whole thing. I didn't want to be.
You didn't want to go back to that.
I didn't want to go back to that, and I was saying. So finally, he goes, "Look, join the band, come out with us. If it's not working for you, then cool." So we did it on a handshake, and I said, "Okay." And 7 years later, it got down to the point that I guess he wasn't doing. He couldn't. I joined the band to do the blues segment.
Sure.
So he got to the point that where he wasn't doing the blues segment anymore, and I was really worn out. At my age, the bus travel was killing me. It was taking me a month or so to recover after the tour, and so my wife and I agreed that it was time to go, and he was ready to move on to something else. So it's very amiable.
Absolutely. Well, no, what I want you to talk about is like the reception, how the significance of original music has changed in our culture, because here you guys are as the Checkmates coming up with, singing on the, just coming up with new stuff that eventually became popular.
Yeah.
And then you go on tour with Miller and Journey and Tower of Power. And you're in the studio cranking out new tunes with Steve, but the audience didn't come for that. They came to hear the old stuff. How has the significance of original music changed? Why has it changed?
I think when I did two CDs with Steve, and first one was called Bingo. The second one was called Let Your Hair Down. and their CDs, and I sang lead on a few songs in each one of those CDs. But the thing about it was, just like you said, the audience come there, they want to hear the hits, because he has a buttload of them. You know what I mean? Three world number ones,
Yeah.
and the rest of them were like million sellers galore. And so that's what people wanted to hear.
And honestly, most of the cats that are coming to those gigs are from that generation too.
Yeah.
You know, it's not. Yeah.
So we would try to push those CDs in the show. Basically, I don't know. You know, for an older act to get radio anymore, it's sort of, you know, I can't really talk like I know what's going on, because I don't know what's going on with the music business that way anymore. The record business and radio and all that stuff, I don't know how that happens. Now, it seems like everything is streaming now, so I don't know what's...
But going back to the Checkmates, I mean, did your fan base look forward to your new material?
No.
They wanted to hear the hits too.
No, they come to see what they saw that they liked. And when you change that, now they're going, wait a minute, how come you're not doing this song? How come you're not doing that? How come you guys don't do this anymore? And so the old saying, you know, you got to dance with who brung you. You know, that's basically it. You know, I remember hearing Steve goes, I'm so tired of doing this same show, but I can't get away from it.
Right. Well, Pete Townsend with the Who for a while was. I heard him talking about they have done the same show for 4 years. That's a burn, man.
Yeah. So Steve is doing his 50th year. This year is his 50-year show. And
Right. The 50th year anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember doing the 40th year with him, and trying to come up with something different. It's like, okay, but the audience don't want something different. You know, they want to hear the hits, man, and that's just it. Unless you get something on the radio that's a big hit again. You know, like Santana when he came out with that last thing he did, Just Forget About It and all that stuff. Now that resurrected him.
Right.
But unless you catch something like that. But I think that's the last time you heard one of those acts, one of those vintage acts, get good radio play.
Well, yeah, I mean, and the radio doesn't even operate in the same form anymore. It's all consolidated, and they're playing the same 10. It's just hard for, I guess, you know, can you just reflect on perseverance and ultimately, what is your message to our country about coming together? I don't want to sound colloquial, but it just seems that, I mean, it'd be foolish to ignore the fact that we are all interconnected. There's an immediacy to all the hate crimes that go on. You see them right away. I think the police are in a tough spot too, because like you said, we need police, but yet you're also seeing people going too far. I mean, you said you've lived a clean life, and you've walked that line.
Yeah.
But what's your message to? There's going to be a hate rally right outside the White House that's pretty much condoned by the president.
Sure.
What's your message to this country right now?
I would say that we need to really take a good look at the fact that this is a country that's being divided. You know what I mean? And it's being divided by the people who are in the big. And I would have to say the 1% are doing it. You know, I've always said that to me, America's like, you know, it's like the eagle. You got the left wing and the right wing, and then you got this little tiny head that controls the whole bird. And so they're the people who want to keep the left and the right. They don't want it to be one bird.
They keep it separate.
They want to keep it separate. And I guess that's how they make their money, or how they keep their power, is by having
A divide and conquer mentality.
And
Yeah.
also, you know, the fact that they say 2045 is when white people will become the minority. And I don't think there will be a real true racial majority anymore, because there's so much diversity. So, hey, we're all going to have to look back to say, I mean,
Okay, so for those, when you hate what you've become, how do you spin out? How do you get out of it? You have to. I mean, because you've been in that spot, not just
yeah.
where you sort of like you're like I don't like this life.
But
So
see, I grew up in a family that wasn't racist. I had white friends. We had a kid across the street from us when I was growing up, Lester Farrell. Lester was a redhead guy, freckles and stuff. His dad was a drunk and abusive guy, and Lester spent the most time at our house. He spent most time at our house, and unfortunately, when I left to go to the service, and I found out that the kid committed suicide. But the fact was, our home was like that.
yeah, you didn't know any better. That's what you knew.
We didn't look at race that way, and I was never raised that way, and so I just never really took on the persona of, and I know this will be probably criticized by a lot of people, but I never considered myself as a black man. I consider myself as a man that's black, and I put the man part first because I don't feel like I gotta lock myself into a stereotype group, because I don't want to live that way. I don't want to live in a pigeonhole. I want to live open and enjoy the whole world and enjoy the whole life. And I see too many people get trapped into that, both white and black. They get trapped into that thing that they got to live up to the racial identity more so than the fact that I'm a human being first.
That's a very interesting point. There's like a racial litmus test that has to that they have to.
And it's all how we're raised. You know what I mean? If you're raised in that household, when you see kids that are 7, 8 years old, look at another kid from another race and start calling them racial names. Now that's something that was taught. That's something that was taught. Maybe by what's on what shows they watch on TV, or what books that there are at their house, or where the parents talk and that whole thing.
How about this? How about the fact that these commemorative statues remain in so many of these states?
I know.
Stonewall Jackson. I mean, even if it's just a regular legal case and your skin color is black, you have to walk past that statue in the courtroom expecting trying to get justice.
Yeah,
that's insane.
It is. It is.
That's insane.
And the fact that people can't let the past go. The whole Confederacy was, and a big part of our Constitution was written to appease the Confederates. And when you stop and think of the whole thing, all men were created equal. Well, at that point, when that was written, blacks were considered 3/4 human.
Absolutely.
So we weren't part of that thing.
3/5, I think.
Yeah, 3/5 or something like that. We weren't full human beings, so we weren't considered part of that. We weren't equal, and a lot of people never really considered us that way. And during the era of white privilege, which is, everybody knows that that's a fact, and like I say, a lot of people who were not overtly racist are part of the white privilege situation, and they don't really realize.
Well, are they just being ignorant and don't want to really look? You said right away when I said, "What's your message to the peeps?" You said people have to take a hard look. You have to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
And if you're ignoring it, that makes you complicit in the whole thing.
Yeah. And if you can look in the mirror and go, I'm all right with the way it is, then you're all right with the way it is, and that's the way you're going to live your life. And you'll probably teach your kids that, and the beat goes on. So to say, will there ever be where everybody mellows out? And I don't think there will be.
Well, especially as it gets closer to a white minority in 2045, we are so multi-ethnic now.
But even when you look at like the Middle East, where everybody's pretty much the same skin tones and all that kind of stuff. But hey, this guy prays looking at the east, and I pray looking at the west.
Well, that's right.
Or whatever it is, so I got to kill him.
I dig.
That's
right. Before my phone battery dies, what's so cool is that I think the late great Jerry Buss,
great man.
You were dating a Playboy bunny. You explain how you guys met, and then he was already hip to the Checkmates, and how basically he got you back into the biz to a degree.
Jerry was, yeah, he was familiar with the Checkmates. I don't know how big a fan he was, but I was dating a Playboy bunny, and he was dating her sister.
Right.
And we met like that, and he goes, "Hey man, I like it." So we went to dinner together, and we started hanging together, and I did the national anthem for him a couple times, and we were just hanging
in Inglewood at the Laker games.
Yeah.
Oh, that is
Oh
badass.
man, I would be at the farm club with him. And
oh my god.
I went. He took me to see the bullfights in Mexico City and not Mexico City, but in Mexico, and which was too gory for me. I couldn't watch it, and
I wouldn't want to hit that either.
I didn't want to watch it, so I waited out.
Was it during the Magic era of the Lakers when you guys?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that is so ridiculous.
Yeah, Magic's first visit to the Lakers.
From Michigan State.
We went to dinner. Pat Riley, Jerry Buss. Magic was real young. I sat next to him, and he was just so naive.
You were hanging with Pat and Buss, Jerry.
Yeah.
I mean, you were just hanging
I was just hanging, man.
This is ridiculous.
Pick Fair, I was just hanging out there, you know.
But
I wrote the album I did with Bobby Paris, The Sun Still Shines, in Pick Fair. Me and Bobby Paris was in one of the rooms playing the piano, and we came up with about 5 of the tunes there.
Now can you sing this hit that or became a pop hit on that album that he financed?
Gonna put it in a magazine, tell all the world about my love for you. Oh yeah, I'm gonna put it in a magazine. My love is true. I wrote that song based on Lady Di and the whole deal she was going through. Mm-hmm. It was always in the magazine. It was a cover of People and
brilliant.
Us and all that. And I'm saying there's a love affair that's in the magazine. The magazine's a covering it. So that I wrote it on the way to L.A. same day that the big MGM fire was happening. I remember driving by, people, the sheets hanging out of the windows and all that kind of stuff. But I had this little nugget of the song in my head, and I wrote it on the way there, way to L.A.
How do you feel about that sort of serendipity? I don't believe there are any consequences in life, but just the idea that you rode that wave, ducked out with Gloria Gaynor, and when disco came in, and then to bounce back in that way. What did you learn about life after that? From that,
you know what I remember saying, because I was homeless for 3 years. I mean, I'm not 3 years, 3 weeks. I had a car. I wasn't really homeless because I had a car.
You were sleeping in your car for 3 weeks.
Yeah. And then I get the call that Buss wants to do this album. I mean, Bobby Paris called me, wanted to do this album. So I got some money up front to do the album, and that straightened me out. And but it just goes to show you. So now I get this hit, put it in a magazine, it's playing all over the place. And my friend asked me, "How do you feel?" I said, after all the stuff I've been through in my life with this business, I feel like I'm a guy walking through this beautiful pasture with the flowers and everything, and I'm just waiting for somebody to say, "Get out! What are you doing in here?" So
you were still
I was still walking on eggshells.
Trepidation, a lot of trepidation.
Yeah, because I didn't feel it was real. And guess what? The guy didn't print any albums. So here I am, number 6 on the radio, and there are no albums in any record stores. It was a ruse. The guy who High Rise Records got all the money from the investors, went bankrupt.
How many pressings of the album were there?
I don't know.
Not enough.
Well, I was number 6. I guess 3 weeks later, I wasn't even on the charts. There was no albums. There was no records.
That thing never has seen the light of day?
Well, it got airplay, but I didn't sell anything.
Do you have a copy of it?
I think I do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. We're going over to the record collection here. I just would love to see the amount of pressings of this. And this thing got to number 6 on the pop charts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in the R&B charts, it was number 2. Michael Jackson, Sonny Charles, Marvin Gaye's. This one.
All right, let's check this out.
This one.
Yeah, I saw this in Tucson.
Yeah.
So this is the one, and this hit on the back.
Put It in a Magazine was the hit.
Put It in a Magazine.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is that, I mean, do you see royalties from it?
No, because it never sold. I mean, I got a few performance royalties from radios for a little while, but once it fell off, occasionally I might hear it on one of the oldies stations or on a FM, but you don't get much money from that stuff. But the thing that I do get paid for is the song "I'm Leaving" that I wrote for Elvis.
Wait, you wrote a song for Elvis Presley?
Yeah. Me and a buddy of mine, Michael Jarrett, wrote a song called "I'm Leaving" that Elvis recorded, and it was his closing song.
Give a shout out to my man Clarence McDonald right now, who connected us.
Mac, I just talked to him last night. We were laughing about some stuff. Always laughing with Mac.
Love that cat, man.
I met Mac about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I don't think it was 3, but we hooked up right away. We're golfers, so we go out and golf. And on Tuesdays, I go by Mac's, and I sing and he plays, and it's so pure and so much enjoyment. And we go through Donny Hathaway, and we do Ray Charles, because he played with Ray Charles. Mm-hmm. And we do Ray Charles songs and just songs that whatever pops in our heads. And it's just the two of us sitting in there playing and laughing and having a good time. Great friend.
Well, having a high time here. Sonny Charles, what an honor, man. Thank you for being part of the program, brother.
Thank you, Jake.
It's the Jake Feinberg Show. That's it from Las Vegas. I'll see you next week.